right before I started recording, I said, all right, Spencer, you ready? Let's fuck this horse. Why? Why were those my words?
I'm just trying to think of the thought process of maybe like, let's ride this horse, or like, I don't know,
think
man.
So. I think that's where my brain was going. Like, okay, let's ride this horse into the episode of the show. But apparently my brain just said, fuck this horse.
Your Xbox Game Pass Game of the Month Club.
I'm Spencer. And I'm Mark. That spells Spark.
Your spark of inspiration to explore Game Pass.
Charging sequence at 30%, 50%, Chief, 70%, 90%.
This is Spark Pass.
Hey everybody, welcome to Spark Pass, your Game Pass Game of the Month Club. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark, and I am a level 3 fighter, and I am joined, as always, this week, this month, this lifetime, by my partner in crime. He's a level 5 bard with the content creator focus. Spencer, is that a homebrew?
Yes, it is. It is a homebrew. I came up with it on my own. I spent many hours researching, and just made this outrageous thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I'm going to level with you. Once you get to level 20, you seem broken as fuck. But, like, the early levels, I'm not sure about these early levels, dude. It seems a little underpowered.
It's a grind sometimes, you know, but you got to put in the time and the work. And when you do, man, you see those results. Let me tell you.
Those gains. Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it pays off. How you doing, man?
I'm okay. I'm tired.
Yeah, me too.
For those of y'all that don't know, we live in the Midwest, and that means that our weather has been the biggest roller coaster that it could be around this time of year. So my allergies are kicking my butt, man. It's getting me.
You know what? Same here, but I want to give you the fucking, like, Nintendo Power level up on this shit right now, because this is something I've been doing recently. Are you familiar with the concept of a neti pot? Are you familiar with this?
I am. I've never tried it, but I do know what it is.
Okay, if you guys have never heard of this shit, basically, it's a pot that you put water, distilled water, make sure it's distilled water, because otherwise you can get a brain parasite and die, is a thing that I learned this past week.
Bro, you are not selling me on this at all.
I mean, if you use distilled water, it's fine. And it's a very small chance you get the brain parasite and die, but I'm on kind of a 0% brain parasite rating, and I'd like to stay there.
Well, that's
personally.
good.
Yeah. So if you use distilled water, make sure it's distilled or bottled or filtered. If you use filtered water at home, you're fine. And salt, and you rinse out your navel cavities with this neti pot thing. I have big time allergy problems. Just like all sorts of stuff goes wrong with my sinuses. It has been a godsend. It has helped me a ton. So I would highly recommend that if you're in seasonal allergy season like all of us. Highly recommended.
It's a good shout. My biggest thing is, like, I always end up with, like, the scratchy throat, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wake up and it's like...
Right, because all that business has been sitting in your sinuses all morning and, shoots back down. Yeah, for sure. Welcome to Sinus Talk, your sinus pass podcast. But glad you're doing okay. I mean, yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks, I think, for everybody. But we're getting through it. We're in May. We're getting close to the first bit of news as we pivot over here to Game Pass News. Actually, before we pivot to Game Pass News real quick, want to make a note of something. Obviously, as you can see by the title, we are not talking about the Ascent this month.
No.
We're not. We're not. Do we want to talk about why that's the case, Spence?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think we both have similar but slightly different reasons.
Yeah.
I didn't play, like, anything in April, almost, to be honest with you. And, playing something that I wasn't, like, super into was impossible to start for me.
100% same. April is usually my busiest month of the year. My birthday's in April. I have a lot of commitments that I like to try to make with the rest of my family for Easter. I'm not particularly religious, but they are, and Easter is a big deal for them, so that's cool, and I try to make it happen when I can. Made it happen this year after 2 years. Shout outs to, our world. April is an extremely busy month for me, and always is, and I had a lot of stuff going on, and anytime I wanted to play a game, literally I would turn on my Xbox, sit and stare at the Ascent on my games page. I'd sit and stare at it, sometimes for 15 minutes, sometimes for a couple of hours, and just could not get myself to click on the thing.
Yeah.
Like, just could not do it. I'm sure it's a fine game. This is not a knock on the Ascent. But neither of us were super vibing with it. But luckily, a game came and saved the day in our Spark Pass stream. So we're going to be talking about Solasta Crown of the Magister this month on Spark Pass. Little something different, little something cool. It's a PC only game, which we've not really ever done before. It's not something we've intentionally avoided. It just sort of hasn't happened. But PC Game Pass is a big part of Game Pass too. And I'm excited to talk about it. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I'm actually pretty pumped to talk about it. I'm glad we found a pivot point.
Yeah, I am too. This game was super sick.
Yeah. So, but before we get into that, let's hit a little bit of Game Pass news. And I feel like the biggest news we need to hit was announced about a week or so ago. We have time for the summer Xbox and Bethesda big games announcement. Don't call it E3 because E3 doesn't exist anymore, I guess. I don't know. The summer games mess from the past couple of years, as Jeff Grubb puts it, continues. But we've got a press conference coming up in about a month. I'm pretty stoked about it. Are you stoked? What's your excitement level coming in now that we know that it's happening?
God, that is only a month away. Yeah, it's May.
It sure is
I'm
May.
excited, man. I think this will be really cool to see what they're going to talk about. From what it seems like, they're probably going to talk more about things that are very much on our horizon of, they are going to be releasing soon-ish, rather than, hey, here's a bunch of brand new giant titles, which, you know what? I'm kind of cool with. Getting the new exciting titles is fun, but also we've had so many freaking games get announced that we haven't seen anything of since they were announced, or we've seen the absolute bare minimum. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
so
it kind of feels
I'm into it.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of games like my brain goes to Avowed, we've hardly seen anything of. Yeah. Fable, we just got a teaser. Perfect Dark, we just have a teaser. Perfect Dark's probably not going to be ready anytime soon. Yeah, if you believe the reports. Everwild, we don't know anything about. We haven't even. Starfield is coming out this year, and we have not seen gameplay yet. There's a lot of stuff that Xbox has announced for down a couple years down the line, down the horizon, that we just haven't seen hide or hair of. So if we see just a couple of those, I will be very happy. But I mean, obviously, I think this press conference will be all about the two big games this year, which is going to be Starfield and Forza Motorsport. I think those are going to be the two games they sort of focus the most on, and Redfall as well. I think we'll end up actually seeing some Redfall gameplay. I think those are going to be the big three. I suspect that if this is their shows have tended to be an hour and a half, I suspect that will probably be around 40 minutes of the show. It'll probably be those three games will be about half the show, is about what I'm expecting.
Yeah. I would say we're probably going to see some more stuff about Hellblade as well. Because we just had a big gameplay release for that in December.
Right.
So that's got to be getting pretty dang close. So we might get a release date.
That would be.
It may not be a big thing. It may just be hey, we're still making this. It's coming out this day. For you people who are super into this game.
For sure. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, we are getting to about that time. I mean, that game was announced before the Series X was even out. So, we're probably to about that time. You're probably right about that. But there's a bunch of stuff that could potentially show up. Man, I know it's not going to happen this year. I just want to know what fucking Everwild is. Like,
right?
Aesthetically, I am so into that game, but I just want to know what it is. Like, what's the video game? And there's a bunch of games.
Than art.
Right, exactly. There's a bunch of games that Microsoft has in the pipeline right now that are like, I love this as an idea. What's the game?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm hoping this whole thing is, hey, we announced all these games. We showed you some really cool cinematics or some beautiful artwork. And here's what the game actually is.
Yeah.
That's our whole day.
That's what I'm hoping for as well. But that's coming up pretty soon. Obviously,
June 12th, I believe.
What's the exact date?
I believe it's June 12th.
June 12th. God, that is a
Sunday.
month away. Yeah, it's a Sunday, which thankfully that can be our Spark Pass Sunday stream for that week.
Yeah, it'll just be a little different time.
Yeah, different time, different place. And also for those of you who listen on the podcast feed, I'm sure we'll do something on the podcast feed as well about the show, because it seems silly not to. I mean, we don't follow the news like hardcore like a lot of other podcasts do, but whenever you have something big like that, it seems pertinent to put something on the feed about it.
Yeah. It looks like it's Sunday, June 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that is noon Central and 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. So we'll be on stream for that. We'll be co-streaming that for sure. And then we'll probably have some sort of post-mortem on the podcast feed as well. So that's the big news from this past month. But we've got some Game Pass games that are coming down the pipeline. I will say this is not a crazy month for Game Pass news. At least the first half of this month is kind of slow. NBA 2K22 did come out fairly recently, like maybe a week or so ago, but the NBA 2K games come to Game Pass late in the NBA playoffs every year, so that's not really news. That's just sort of the thing that happens continuing. Mm-hmm. The first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of stuff that is coming and already here, the Season 2 of Halo Infinite dropped as we're recording this yesterday, as you're listening to this last week. Lone Wolves, we got a couple new maps, we got a couple new game modes, we got the promise of co-op coming in August, and they did put out a full roadmap for Season 2, including the knowledge that this is, once again, just like Season 1 was, going to be a 6-month season instead of a 3-month season, which I think for a lot of people was cause for concern. But the new season's out. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to check it out yet as we're recording this, Spence, because it just came out yesterday. But what's your sort of temperature check on this? Are you excited? Are you meh? Are you down on it? Where's your vibe at?
I kind of feel like I'm sort of meh. Like, I'm not down on it entirely, but just from like the preview that I've seen and what I've seen people already kind of talking about, I'm not super into it. I think I feel like it's kind of going to be, to me, what all of Infinite has been so far, which is, it's fine. Like, yeah. I have not been overly blown away by anything with Halo Infinite, which sucks because obviously you guys know I'm a big Halo fan. But just like the multiplayer has kind of been bleh this time around, you know? Like, I don't really know how else to explain it. It's fine and it's okay, but I just can't play hours of it like I have in past titles. And it's because there's just not much there. And, you know, one of the things that they've added this time around is Last Spartan Standing, which is essentially Battle Royale mini. And I have so little interest in Battle Royales. Like, they shotgun blast onto the scene a couple years ago and then have kind of run their course for me. And it's like, okay, they're all the same. You know, you spawn in, you die. And then in this one, apparently, if you have challenges for it, you have to sit there and wait for it. There's something, if you quit out before the entire match is over, you don't get your challenge completed.
Oh, that's whack. Which, they'll fix that. There's no way they don't.
They're going to have to, because people are not pleased.
Hey everybody, it's Mark from the future with a little bit of a correction here as I was listening to this while I was editing. So now that I have tried Last Spartan Standing, and by the way, it's fine. I think it's an okay game mode. As it turns out, you do get your challenges popped if you leave early, but you have to wait until the whole match is over. It doesn't pop them as you leave. It just sort of silently does it in the background later on. So it's unintuitive, and I can see why people were confused and thought they weren't popping, but they are. They're just popping in the background. It's weird. It's probably still something they should fix, but I do feel like this was worth noting and correcting because they are technically popping. They're just not popping in an intuitive way. Anyway, back to the past.
Just goes back to, again, this challenge system is just bad. Like, it's gotten a little better, but there's just so many things in it that people don't want. Like, I never want one for Last Spartan Standing because I don't want to play it ever. But then you get them and it's like, well, you gotta do it or you don't progress. So I don't know. I'm gonna play it and see how I'm feeling, but as of now, I'm very meh on it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they have shown on the roadmap that later down the line, the challenge system is basically getting replaced with the old Halo 5 system, it seems like. That's something that's coming way later down the road. Obviously, they've still got to get co-op done, and they've still got to get Forge done. That's the other thing that got announced, is that the beta mode of Forge is coming out pretty soon. So that's good. They're getting the stuff that they promised for the first year done, right? Which is a good thing. And the economy has gotten better. It's still not phenomenal, but it's better. They're making improvements to the game. The big thing I will say about Halo Infinite is look at all live service games. They almost always struggle big time in their first year. Like, Destiny 2 was a disaster in its first year. Apex Legends was horrible in its first year content-wise. There's a lot of these style of games struggle in their first year. We don't even have to begin to talk about Anthem and Marvel's Avengers. Y'all already know the story. If you can survive this first year drought where they're still like polishing the game up and finishing it up and getting all the feature complete content that they want, if we can make it through that first year, which we're about the 6-month point with Halo Infinite, generally speaking, after that, things improve drastically. And Halo is too big to fail for Microsoft, so we don't have to worry about it failing in the Anthem, Marvel's Avengers sense. We don't have to worry about that because Microsoft will put whatever money they need into it to make it succeed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have to worry about that part. We just have to get through this first year of, now that everybody's pretty well done with the campaign, the content's not really flowing just yet. They've got to get that pipeline solidified, and transitioning from just finishing the game to getting that pipeline going is hard. It's not easy. This is the first time 343 has ever done this, right? This is new for them. So it's a challenge, and obviously I understand why folks are like meh or frustrated with the game. But I really think that once they get the gears spinning, it'll be a lot better. We just gotta get those gears grinded.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, I think, especially with how many games exist today. I feel like this is a thing of, if this wasn't Halo, even if it was a Microsoft game and it wasn't Halo, or maybe even like if Gears went this way, they might just let it die, Like, it might go the way of Anthem just because there's nothing behind it. But being Halo, it's the biggest franchise for Xbox. It's what launched and practically made the Xbox in 2001. It won't die, but I don't know how many people will continue to play it. You know what I mean? I'm more worried about the players just going, all right, well, this has been a mess for this long. I just don't care. Or, come back for new content drops. They play for a couple of weeks and then go, all right, well, let's move on again. And it never is. I'm not saying that it will never. I'm saying I'm worried it won't just like catch that footing that it's always had in the past.
Well, here's the thing is like I feel like that's just the flow of modern gaming nowadays. It's very trend based and games really only peak for a couple of weeks. Like Overwatch 2 just put out its beta like and it was soaring for like a week and now everybody's just like, yeah, okay, Overwatch 2, yeah, sure, whatever. Like Overwatch is a massively popular franchise and everyone's kind of meh on it after a week. Like we have very short attention spans. And we have very short memories. If the game is pumping out the content at a good rate, at some point it will catch an audience, right? Like I am not worried about this game catching an audience, being in the top 10 games played on Xbox on any given month, any given week. Obviously, you know, people always look at the PC numbers. I think that's a terrible metric for judging, especially Halo, since it's a console-centric franchise.
Yeah, and a lot of people I feel like look at specifically the Steam number.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, I get it. That's probably where a lot of people are playing it on PC, but, you know, there's also Xbox and the Xbox launcher or whatever we want to call it on PC where people have Game Pass and played the campaign for included in their Game Pass, and that's where they're playing multiplayer. Like, looking at the Steam chart is stupid for a game like this.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I get it because in a lot of instances, it's the only metric we have, right?
Yeah.
By the way, if you want a good metric for this, True Achievements puts out a list of the most played games on Xbox every single week. It's a phenomenal listing. They basically, because they can scrape all this achievement data, they've also scraped those same players' gameplay data and it basically gone, hey, here's all the games that everybody's playing. And it's a great list. And I didn't believe in it whenever I first saw it, but I believe in the data. Like there's no reason for them to lie about it, right? So they put together that list every single week, and I have been using it in my mind to sort of keep track of what's popular on the platform. A lot of that can fluctuate with Game Pass and especially Game Pass quests. Anytime a game is a Game Pass quest for a month, it shoots up the charts because everybody just does the quest to move on, right?
Yeah.
But it's a overall really solid metric to figure out what people are playing, and Halo Infinite has not left the top 10. It's up there with the Fortnites and the COD Warzones and the Rocket Leagues and all of those games that like consistently top the charts. Halo Infinite on Xbox is right up there. So people that worry about this game dying, I think, are out of their goddamn minds.
Oh, yeah. Microsoft will not let this game die. There's no way.
0% chance. So I think, you know, obviously I get that Halo fans are frustrated, and I understand that frustration to an extent, but hey, we got a little new content now. More coming. It's going to be okay. Everybody take a deep breath. I understand it's the internet. We can't have patience and think for 5 goddamn seconds, but let's stop and chill. I think everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think, though, that a lot of Halo fans have a lot of reason to be upset with this particular release of the game because, you know, everything that we just talked about, well, a lot of things we just talked about, like co-op and Forge, they've just been parts of the games in the past. And now we're waiting a year for them to come out. And the other games have launched with a, you know, full set of game modes, a full set of maps, and this launched with 4 maps, and one of them was trash. That's just my opinion, though. I fucking hate that launch map or whatever. But to just be like all the reasoning was just like, well, we just can't do it. We just couldn't do it. You did it for how long, man?
Well, I think the reason for that, my vibe check on the reason for that, is they put a lot more resources into the campaign than they have historically, and they completely changed how the campaign works. Now that that's done, yeah, I can understand, like, hey, it's been 6 months, why hasn't this changed yet? I get that. But I think the reason why it wasn't there at launch was because they put way more resources into the campaign than they ever have before.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like the multiplayer has just been like, it just feels like an entirely new game instead of like a brand new game that it's the first title in the IP. And it's like, hey, we had to include multiplayer in our game. It's like when BioShock 2 had multiplayer and it was half-ass thought through. That's what this has felt like.
I don't know that I'd go that strong on it. I still think I don't play Halo Infinite's multiplayer a ton, but when I do play it, I still have fun with the game. I still really like it. So, I don't know. I don't know that I'd go that strong on it, but franchises have set expectations after they've been out for however long. I get that.
Yeah, after a 20-year-old franchise and it doesn't have some of like the basic multiplayer modes that have kind of become staples in it. It's like, ugh, how did you not just have that?
Yeah,
like,
I get that.
I think that's kind of that's my biggest thing, is just that like the multiplayer has felt like they just kind of slapped it on there at the end and went, that'll do. And it didn't.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully it will get better and better as time goes on. I think I'm more up on Halo Infinite in general than I think the community is. The community seems really down on it, but like, I want to be real with you. The Halo community is fucking pessimistic as fuck about fucking everything, and it kind of drives me nuts.
Oh yeah.
Like, just
I
if you don't like the game anymore, move on, right? Like,
I left the Halo subreddit because it was so fucking bad.
Yeah.
Of like every time like there would be a tweet from someone that works at 343 like, hey, we're doing this thing, and they would be it's like, it's a positive thing that you specifically asked us to do. They'd be like, fuck this game, it sucks. I was like, they're doing what we want. Like, I understand, I'm frustrated too, but they're not just gonna like, come in on Monday and be like, we fixed everything, boys, let's go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it is gonna take time, and I understand the frustration, and I agree with that part of it. But when they say, hey, you asked for this game mode and we included it, just say thanks, man. We're happy you're working on it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and there's so many gaming communities that are like this, that are just constantly negative and pessimistic all the time, and it drives me up a fucking wall. I'm so fucking over it.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. Like, if you don't like the game, don't fucking play it. That's fine. But, like, shut up.
There's so many fucking games right now.
Yeah.
Look at your Game Pass subscription. There's 200 fucking games. Pick one that makes you happy.
Yeah, and like I was just saying, like, I haven't really been playing that much Infinite because I haven't been digging it. But, like, I still keep up with it, and when something good happens, I'm still like, good, we're moving in the right direction. We're getting there. Might take a while. I might play, like, here and there as opposed to hundreds and hundreds of hours like I have in the past for a while. But we're getting there. It's just taking a lot longer than we want it to. But
sure,
I can't make it go faster, and I'm sure no one at 343 is like, let's just take a little bit longer. That sounds fun. No, like, they're working on it. If they could just flip a switch and make everything perfect, they would too. They wouldn't have to work as hard, and everyone would be happy. Like, I don't get what people don't like understand about stuff like that. Like, no one at 343 is just like, hey, fuck you guys. Like, they're trying. It takes a while.
It takes a while. But anyway, season 2 is out. We've gone on long on these first two topics because, to be completely frank, we really don't have a ton to talk about in terms of games that are releasing on Game Pass this month. At least for the
light month.
Yeah, it's kind of a light month. The first half of the month. I mean, there's stuff coming out, but really the only notable game for me is, as y'all are listening to this will already be out, but on May 5th, Trek to Yomi comes out, and this looks like this really dope, like, samurai theme, sort of like old samurai film, 2D action game. Looks really dope, really stylistic, really cool. I'm super excited about checking it out. But really, like, that's about it. Aside from Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which is an action RPG that's coming out on May 10th and is a prequel to the main Eiyuden Chronicle game, which was the biggest funded game in Kickstarter history in 2020. That's coming out on May 10th for console, cloud, and PC. And we don't, really play sports games, but I do like to note the sports games because I feel like they're a big deal for people on the platform. NHL 22 coming on May 12th. The NHL games are pretty good, so that's a good one to get. It's nice to have all the major sports in Game Pass right now. It's pretty cool. But really, that's about it for the first half of the month. The first half of the month is pretty light. The summer is typically pretty light. So I'm not overly surprised by this.
Yeah. I feel like that's just, it's that time of year. More people are doing outdoor things. Less games are coming out in general, let alone to a very specific service like Game Pass. So, it's all right. It's a good time to catch up on stuff, I think.
Right, exactly. And I mean, like, obviously the spring has been way crazier than usual. So excellent time to catch up. I will probably end up checking out Trek to Yomi at some point, but other than that, the first half of May, if you just like fall asleep for 2 weeks and just come back for the next announcement, you probably won't have missed a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's what's going on in Game Pass and the world of Xbox more generally this month. Let's shift it over to the game we're talking about this month, Spencer, because this is your Game Pass Game of the Month Club. And we're not talking about The Ascent. We're talking about Solasta Crown of the Magister, which is a tactical turn-based RPG published by Tactical Adventures, which is an independent studio. Speaking of Kickstarter, this was another Kickstarted game. This came to Game Pass around this time last year, and I feel like that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it, because it hasn't been announced as leaving Game Pass, but we're kind of worried it might leave Game Pass soon.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't heard anything about an announcement, but typically games sign on for a Game Pass contract for a year, and it's been about a year. So definitely, if this is a game that sounds interesting to you, I'll just say up front, go try it now, because I can't promise you it's going to be there in a month. So if this is a game that sounds interesting to you as we talk about it, go check it out. I'm just going to get it out front right out of the way. I think both of us would highly recommend giving it a look if you're into it. So this basically, long story short, is probably the most accurate D&D simulator I have ever played in video game form.
Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm pretty much in agreement with that.
Like, this game is basically, the way to think about it is they took the rule set of an open source version of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and they basically made that the rule set for their whole game. Character creation is just like D&D. The stats and stuff is just like D&D, and even the combat is really like D&D 5th edition. And I know, Spence, you have been jonesing for a tabletop gaming type experience lately.
Yes.
I know you've been jonesing for that. Did this at least somewhat fill the void?
It definitely helps, for sure. It feels like a little bit less like you're playing D&D with your friends, because you don't do like the role playing as much. You as a group pick what dialogue to use. And then your character, or whichever character, there's a voice actor that reads the dialogue. So that part is still not quite there. If that's like your jam and favorite part of playing tabletop RPGs is the actual role playing, this may not click that part for you. But if you just want to like be a murder hobo and roll dice to hit stuff instead of have to actively like pull a trigger or press X, this is gonna do it, man. Because the game rolls a dice for you. It determines if you hit, and then you see the specific dice, like a D10, a D6, a D8, whatever, rolls on screen, and that is your damage. So that part definitely is helping scratch that itch a little bit. It's not perfect, but I mean it is damn close.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree that it doesn't like fully capture the role playing. It's extremely difficult for a video game to do that. Like, I just don't think that's something a video game can capture.
There's no way.
Yeah, it just seems like an exceptionally hard thing for a video game to like grab hold of. But in terms of the rules and the combat, there's stuff that is slightly different, because this is using the SRD rule set. It's not using the exact Dungeons and Dragons rule set and the license exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So there is stuff that is D&D specific that you will not see in this game, that is sort of commanded by the license. But They have the rules and they have the character building, so it's extremely similar. There might be some little tiny differences. If you're a hardcore D&D player, you might notice some little bits and bobs here and there that aren't there, or certain races that you can't use, or certain classes that aren't available in the game, what have you. But for the most part, the character creation I thought was honestly probably the part of the game I had the most fun with, just rolling up a bunch of random dorks.
Yeah.
That's probably the part of the game I had the most fun with, because it is surprisingly in depth. Like, what really stood out to me in the character creation was this, rather than having like an alignment chart where you just pick like you're neutral good or you're chaotic evil or whatever the hell, which I kind of like, I'm not a big fan of, honestly. I think it's a little boring, and I think it kind of limits role-playing opportunities.
Yes.
Instead, they just ask you a series of traits. Like, is your character greedy? Is your character altruistic? Is your character, heroic and want to help people? Or is he mostly looking out only for his friends? These sort of like personality trait-based questions. And then the game basically creates dialogue for that character based off those personality traits. And I thought that was a brilliant way to handle it.
Yeah, I think so too, because like I agree. Like, I've always hated are you like chaotic good, lawful evil? I'm like, that feels very limited, and people are complicated. So to just be like, are you bad guy? Are you good guy? Is like, but what if I'm a good person who like sometimes does bad things, but that's to like feed my family? Like, I stole bread to feed my family, but overall I'm a good person. And it's like, we can't just pick one or the other,
That would be chaotic good, but yeah, like I get what you mean though.
Yeah, like it's just it's so limited as opposed to
don't
like
exclusively behave in this box.
Exactly.
Right?
Like people are very wide and broad, not like stuck in like you said, a box for sure. And I've always kind of been like, I don't know, that feels like I could be all of those things, man. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it does feel, I do like that because they're free from the bounds of the D&D license, they can do different things like that, right? If you're a D&D licensed game, people would expect you to have just that alignment chart, right? You look at a game like Baldur's Gate, which has that. Versus, having this more, I think, intuitive system of like understanding the personality of your character. And it does give you opportunities to do a little bit of role play, especially if you play this game with friends, because this game has multiplayer. So, which was recently added, by the way. That was only added a couple of months ago.
Yes. And I think that makes all the difference in this game.
Same. Like, I don't think I would play this as a solo experience. I think as a solo experience, something like a Baldur's Gate or like a Neverwinter Nights would work a lot better for me, because it's an action RPG and it's happening in real time. But because you can play it with friends, that replication of the real D&D experience that you can play with friends, I think makes a world of difference for this game and makes this game stand out.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, this feels like a game that is very specifically made to play with my friends. So I'm very glad that they've added that, because I just like you, I played through the first, like, up to the first mission, like where we went to that first fort,
right?
If you remember that, I played through that by myself, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then I went, man, I'm gonna play this with friends soon, and it is gonna slap. Like, getting to control just my character while you guys like do what your character would do was like, oh, this is awesome. Versus me controlling 4 people made a night and day difference.
Yeah, it can be a lot to manage. Yeah, for sure. I think that's the big thing for me too, is like, that's what allows it to sort of capture the spirit of D&D that I feel like a lot of these other games, like, and I'm not saying these are bad games. Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, right? Neverwinter Nights is a classic. Fucking Divinity Original Sin 2, I have heard, is a phenomenal game, right? All of these games that try to capture D&D's magic and try to capture D&D's energy, They just do it in a different way. They do it in a way that is friendly to the single player experience, right? Because these are largely single player games.
Yeah.
I feel like Solasta is the first one of these games that I have played that really captures perfectly, or as close as a video game can get to the tabletop D&D experience. I feel like it's the closest I've ever played, and I struggle to imagine how a game could do it better. I'm sure it could be done, but I struggle to imagine what that would look like.
Yeah, like the only thing I can really think is if like the actual Dungeons and Dragons brand made basically this exact same game, just with everything that's included in like the full D&D licensing.
Sure.
But it would just be the same game with, you know, more more races and more character options than anything.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But like, I mean, if that hasn't already happened, is it going to at this point? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess Solasta could be the thing that they see and go, damn, people do want that. Like they've been telling us for a long time.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like, anything that involves Wizards of the Coast and video game publishing tends to be a fucking disaster. I'm looking at you, Magic the Gathering Arena.
That's fine. I'll look at Dark Alliance for that one.
There's also that. Dark Alliance is also like, oh my god. Going from playing Dark Alliance with our friends and then going with the same friend group and playing Solasta is like, oh my god, it's a night and day fucking difference.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I know that they aren't the same kind of game.
Right.
Like, Dark Alliance was more of like an action game than it is an actual like D&D roll for damage game. But this one, the menu at least worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the game functioned. Like,
and that makes a big difference.
That makes a huge difference. Like, when your game works, you tend to play it a bit more. Yeah, Dark Alliance. Oh my god, I had like almost completely forgotten about that game. It had been scorned from my memory, and yet
don't worry, I brought it back up for you.
Brought that back for me. Thank you so little. Thank you so precious little.
Just think.
But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I just feel like this game captured something that I haven't felt in a very long time. Because, like, I mean, obviously for a lot of folks, you know, been in lockdown for 2 years and maybe they've just sort of started getting back to their normal, you know, D&D groups or whatnot. But like, I feel like this fulfills a very important role of if you don't have that in your real life, or, you know, maybe you're between games or maybe, you know, you don't have that sort of connection to D&D that you used to have. I feel like this fills that niche so perfectly. It warmed a spot in my heart. I will put it that way.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it feels like it would be a good thing for maybe your friend who isn't into D&D to kind of learn some of it without
like a bridge, like a gateway game. I get you. Yeah.
Without being overwhelmed by like, okay, here's the player's handbook, read the whole thing front to back and know everything when you come to session 0. And it's like, no, thank you. I would rather not. Which, like, obviously you shouldn't do.
If your DM tells you that you need to know the player's handbook front to back before session 0, leave. Go play with somebody else.
I can also see where, like, okay, you need this book, you need these dice, you have to have all of these things. Is like, okay, that's a lot. Versus, right, hey, you have a PC that plays games, right? Cool, you have Game Pass? Download this game and do clickies. Like, that is far more welcoming to someone who has zero knowledge of that kind of game, I think. And could be like, oh, so this is basically what you do, but on a tabletop normally, right? Yeah, and they're like, okay, I can see this. This is kind of cool. And then you could bring them into like, oh, we're going to do a one shot and see if you want to play the table version of this game and like actually do your character's role playing and acting versus we choose the dialogue tree together as a team. You know what I mean? Like it'll get people there. And I mean, some people still just bounce off of it and that's fine. But I feel like it's a good way to introduce people to something like this, or the basic idea of it.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of this as a gateway game. That is an extremely good shout. Like, I definitely agree with you that I think that can, you know, if you have somebody in your life that has always been interested in D&D and various other role-playing games, but I mean, this one does hearken quite closely to specifically D&D 5th edition, but there's so many tabletop games you can play that have different themes and different rule sets and whatnot. But if you have somebody who's heard of this, wants to try it, I completely agree with you. If they play video games and are willing to give that a go, for sure, I can definitely see this as a gateway to the larger tabletop RPG experience.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I haven't even thought of the game like that. So we haven't gotten like super mega far through the plot of this game, but I feel like we've started to get the basics. First of all, there's multiple campaigns. So there's the Crown of the Magister campaign, which is sort of the main campaign the game came out with. We're sort of toward the beginning of that one. I feel like we're not like ultra mega qualified to say like any sort of large conclusions about the plot. I think so far, like, it's fine. It's so. I wouldn't say it's like incredible or anything, or like a wow must play RPG experience. Like, it's about a mystery group of lizard men, right? It's not like blowing my mind or anything, but it does the job. It's serviceable.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, it feels like a typical RPG thing of like, hey, we need you to do this quest to go check on these people. Oh no, there's the big bad guys that we fought for ages, or like have been like our mortal enemy for a while now, and it's like, great, now we have to wage a war against them. And that's kind of what it feels like it's leaning towards, which isn't bad. Like, you know, that's kind of what a lot of those, especially like older RPGs were, of just, these are our enemies, we fight them, and it feels fine. Like, I'm not blown away by it so far, but that doesn't mean something awesome won't happen later on. We're only 2 actual missions into it, I think, is how far we made it, because the missions do take a little while. Yeah,
they are lengthy. So, and that's the other cool thing too. And we did also get sidetracked with a side mission too. We went back to the Goblin Cave to beat up a bunch of goblins because beating up goblins sounded fun.
Yeah, and they said they would give us cool stuff.
Yeah, and the cool stuff they gave us was ogres. Thanks.
Yeah, and a direwolf.
And a direwolf. Thanks so much for our level 3 characters that could just barely handle that. I mean, honestly, that's probably the fight we did the best in. To be,
I was gonna say that fight went way better than that. The third fight we did in the caves.
Oh yeah, the first fight against the Sorax. Yep.
Yeah, that was way worse than this fight was.
I would like to give everybody listening to this a piece of advice. The Sorax don't like light. And there are torches in the room that you can light. If you do that, that fight will become much easier for you.
Also, sneak a lot.
Also, yeah, maybe don't immediately get spotted by the dark vision lizard men. Maybe that's a good shout, just a little bit of friendly advice from your friendly neighborhood Spark Path. Yeah, no. So that's the thing, man, is like, just like real D&D, you can get in situations where you're just going to get fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, where it's just not going to work out very well for you. And I didn't even think to look to notice. I'm assuming, and I don't know this for a fact, that you can just run away. That you can just like, I'm out of here, peace. I'm not dealing with this shit anymore, especially for like a side mission or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. We never really tried that.
We probably should have on that one fight. Yeah. Thinking about it. But yeah, no, we never really tried it. I would assume that you could. I don't know why you wouldn't, unless they chase you.
Yeah, I don't know. And I just don't know if it would be one of those things of like a video game where it like, when you start a fight, it kind of sets an invisible barrier for you. Like, this is the battleground. You cannot leave the battleground kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would or not, because there were times where we would move characters, but obviously you hit your move limit like you would in D&D. So I never tried to go farther away.
Yeah, we never really tried that. We should probably try that. That's the thing, is like, we've played this game for like, what, maybe 8-10 hours, something like that, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that, happens all the time in a normal D&D game that we just haven't tried yet. There's that's the thing that I love about rule sets like this, is that there's a ton of space for you to explore. And even though, yes, this is a video game version and it does have rules, and you can't get quite as creative as you can, in a tabletop situation, still, even with that, there's a lot of ways you can accomplish your goals in a Solasta battle. You can push stuff, you can shoot stuff on the ceiling and have it fall down. There's all sorts of different little triggers all around the battlefield that you can deal with stuff in something other than run up and hit it with big sword.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really cool. To me, that's a big part of the D&D experience, is being able to handle situations in ways that aren't just, I hope I roll good on this here D20.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've always liked about different tabletop RPGs, is it is for the most part limited to your imagination and to an extent what your DM will allow.
Right.
Because there are definitely times where I would say something when I've played D&D and my DM would look at me and go, "What the fuck did you just say?" What? Really? And then he would kind of think about it and go, "Okay, you could certainly try it and see what happens." Sometimes it would go great. Sometimes it would go very poorly. But that's the thing. That's part of the game, and that's the fun part, is kind of figuring out what works and doesn't, as opposed to, all right, that guy has a big sword and I have a bow and an arrow. We win. Let's do something. Yeah. Or how can we get through this building without fighting these people?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of creative options. And Solasta, being a video game, doesn't give you the full creative gamut, but it definitely isn't linear. It allows you to approach situations in various ways to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And I just think it's very cool. I do want to talk about some flaws with the game, some sort of nagging things. And we can bring up whatever. Multiplayer servers can be a little bit unstable. It really seems to depend on your host. So, your mileage may vary on that. We had some sessions where people were dropping in and out all the time, and we had others where it was pretty rock solid stable.
Yeah.
So, your mileage may vary, but that's our experience anyway. And obviously, this being an indie game, certainly not a AAA looking game, certainly not a big budget. The voice acting is not great. Graphically, it's kind of subpar. It's certainly not up at the level of you look at Baldur's Gate 3 and it looks insane, right?
Yeah.
And other games of this genre look ridiculous, right? This game is certainly not to that level. So if that's something that bugs you, if you need the latest and greatest, this game is not filling that particular need.
And even to that point though, I didn't think it looked horrible.
Me neither.
But it definitely wasn't 4K realism. It looks like I'm looking out my window, but even clearer kind of thing. Some games are at this point, but I was running it on my PC is pretty powerful, and I mean it looked pretty good. And on as far as graphics go and stuff, what blew me away is this game supported ultra wide.
That's cool.
Monitors, and it looked fantastic on my ultra wide monitor whenever I played it that way. I was like, there's no way this is not gonna look good on ultra wide, and then it looked fantastic. So again, it's not going to look like you're looking out your window or at an 8K display or anything, but it's also not completely ugly.
Right. Yeah.
It is middle of the road graphics for sure.
Yeah. It's fine. It gets the job done for sure. Yeah.
It still looks like a modern video game to me. We're not looking at a PS2 game or a PS1 game or anything.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But if that is important to you, that is definitely not something that this game is striving towards, I will say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, honestly, man, I just had a ton a ton of fun with this that I did not see coming. For the full elaboration, we just sort of played this on a whim on our Spark Pass stream. I think somebody in your chat had recommended it to you at some point.
Yeah, one of my friends from that I met in college, actually, who watches my stream sometimes, and just like in general, we still talk. We were watching what was it? Legend Vox Machina, the Critical Role show that was on Amazon Prime. It's an animated show, and we were texting back and forth about it, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, have you heard of this game, Solasta?" And I was like, "Oh, I haven't heard of that." He's like, "Dude, check it out. It looks like a like D&D video game." So I looked it up one day, and I was like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool." And then I sent it to our friend Mallet Editor, who is like a D&D fiend.
Oh my god. Yes.
She loves D&D. And
yes,
immediately she was like, "I will buy this game." And I was like, "Hold on. It's on Game Pass." And she was like, "I might buy it anyway." Like, she was like, "I'm sold. I'm going to play this game until it doesn't exist anymore." Right. And like, I was kind of almost in the same boat of like, should I just buy this? Because I don't know when it's going to leave Game Pass.
That's the thing.
Because I loved it. It's great.
No. It's a great game, and it's an awesome game to sort of have in the arsenal. And I really don't know when it's leaving Game Pass. Like, that's why we wanted to pivot to this. First of all, we were suffering.
Yeah.
But it's like, I wanted to talk about this game because I think it's awesome, and I think it's, a great way to play D&D away from home, away from your normal group, without, having to get out the tables and the miniatures and the maps and all that stuff. If you just want that experience in a quick, dirty, fast way, I think this game has come the closest that any video game ever has to providing that for me. I think it's great. We didn't even talk about the map maker and the sort of rule sets that you can make.
I was about to ask you about that, if you got any time to mess with that at all.
I haven't really gotten to touch it. But I'm very excited by the premise of it. So basically, there is instead of, a lot of games will have like mod support. For a lot of games in this vein, will have mod support where they'll keep it open, where people can create their own adventures, but you kind of have to know what you're doing as a modder to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. This game just has a full-on map creator. You can create full-fledged dungeons. Yeah. Like, create full-fledged dungeons, full-fledged areas. You can do whatever you need to do. So if you want to play as like almost like a DM and just like make maps for your friends, you can totally do that. And that's very cool. I think that's extremely neat. I haven't gotten to delve too heavy into it just yet. But conceptually, I think that's dope.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I didn't really get into it much, but I looked at it a little bit, like kind of opened it up just to see what you would be able to do. And there is a button that you can click, and it takes you to a website of a bunch of pre-generated ones that people have made.
Oh,
so you can actually install those like you would a mod for other games. And you can use it already made dungeons or like encounters and stuff to run your friends through.
That's very
so that way,
cool.
If like you don't want to make a map, or you're like, okay, I'm a little overwhelmed by creating one, let's download one and see kind of what people have done. Maybe that can help me get a feel of like how and where I can place things instead of just opening like, hey, here's a blank page, go for it, kid.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's extremely cool. And I am not good at that like user generated content kind of stuff. Like, I was a subpar Mario Maker level maker. I was not very good at it. I tried very hard, but I wasn't very good at it. And a bunch of games that have that style of stuff I'm not particularly great at. So my brain doesn't work super well as a game designer. Mm-hmm. Which is why I don't DM a whole lot in related news. But it is awesome that this exists so that the community, once they kind of go through the main campaign, and there is a second campaign that's DLC that you can get that is made by Tactical Adventures. Mm-hmm. But these campaigns are not super duper long, to my understanding. So the idea that you sort of, once those 2 campaigns are over, once you finish the main one and the DLC one, this game can keep going, and this game can keep living, and this game can keep expanding and expanding and expanding as far as the user base wants to take it. I think is extremely cool. I think it's really dope. Yeah, like it's great to have something like this in the arsenal of games you can play with the homies. I'm very happy that something like this exists.
Yeah, I am too, and I didn't realize that it was only like a year old.
Yeah.
So I hope that they continue to support it, and whether we see like a lot of new adventures, maybe we'll eventually see some new classes or some new races and things for character creation to kind of open that up a little bit more would be pretty cool, and just expand on all of it. I hope we get to see that, because this game was freaking awesome, dude. I'm super into it, and I want to play more of it. Like, I still want to keep playing it.
Yeah, for sure. I will say the first big DLC expansion did add 2 classes, so we're getting there.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's something they're planning on building on over time. And even if this eventually turns into, like, they build on this for a couple of years and then they make a sequel for it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
I mean, that would
even
make
if
sense.
it's that, like, I'm totally down. Like, Tactical Adventures as a developer was not on my radar at all. This game was good enough for me that they're on my radar as a developer now. Like, if they put out something else, I'm excited to play it. And that does not happen with a ton of developers for me anymore. So I'm very excited to see whatever it is, whether they keep expanding this game or they move on to something else. Very excited to see what they've got going on in the future.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I would hope we see if we get a sequel is like we've done with Mass Effect games in the past, where you can bring your character to the next game.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome. Like, if we make characters in the first game, they make a sequel, and we can import the character that we've created and maybe played through all of the campaign with, and a ton of dungeons, and like have this very like leveled up character, or just something that you're very attached to still be able to bring it with you and play it, would be awesome.
Yeah, would be very, very cool. If you could continue the legacy of Slab Chad Steak.
Exactly. Such a ridiculous
I
name.
can't believe we've gotten through an hour of recording this and I have not once yet mentioned Slab Chad Steak. Which is the name of my dwarf fighter. And he is a powerful, powerful, meaty man made of meat. He's phenomenal, and I love him. And that would be very cool to sort of carry that legacy forward. All right, as we wind this down, I'm assuming you're big thumbs up on this.
Yeah, go play this game. 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% go check this game out. Again, I cannot promise you how much longer it's going to be on Game Pass. So it's been on the service for about a year. That's danger zone. They could have signed a 2-year contract. Some people do that. The length of contracts does vary on Game Pass, right? So we're not guaranteeing that it's going away tomorrow, but keep an eye on this one. And I will say, unfortunately, my other sort of disappointment with this is, and I understand it because I don't know how it would work on console, but this game is PC only.
Mm-hmm.
It is only available on PC. So if you don't have a good gaming PC, I mean, you can run this game on kind of a bit of a ham sandwich of a computer. It is not like we said, it's not like super graphically intense.
Yeah.
So you can run it. But if you don't have a gaming PC of any sort, if you're just on Xbox, unfortunately, this one's going to be lost on you, which is a shame because I do wish people everywhere could check this game out because I think it's really dope. And I'm also big thumbs up on it.
Yeah. And maybe that's something that we could see in the future is some way to be on console, or like a sequel would come to console. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah.
It might be a little hard to work into how it would work with a controller, but if you can play MMOs on a console, I think you could play this. Like, I know a lot of people play Elder Scrolls Online on their Xbox and have a great time with it. And I think this would be easier than something like that, because there's just less buttons you have to press at a time.
For sure. And I mean, grid-based combat has worked on consoles ad infinitum. Like, you look at Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, games like that.
Oh, yeah.
So like, the combat could work. It would probably be somewhat difficult to translate, but you could probably do it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, if you have a gaming PC and Game Pass, I would recommend checking this game out very highly. Anything else you want to hit before we move on?
I don't really think so. I think we covered it pretty well.
Cool.
Other than, again, go play this. Like, I just want to reiterate it. Go play it.
Go play it. Go check it out. I think it's really worth your time. All right. I know you said you haven't been playing a ton of other games. Do you have anything in the games we've been playing section?
Honestly, nothing that I wasn't playing last month. You know, I've still been playing a little bit of DBD, a little bit of Dead by Daylight, a little bit of GTA Online on the weekends just to kick back and relax, and still chugging my way through Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah, where are you at on that? I would assume you're a fair bit of the ways through that game by this point.
I think I'm still in chapter 4, and there's 6 chapters.
Okay, so you're over halfway done.
Yeah, some chapters have been a little bit more than others, or just like longer. But I kind of just had like a really, really big moment in the story that like revealed some wild stuff. So I was like, oh, we're making some big progress now.
Right.
I'm still enjoying it. It's still a really fun game. It's there's a lot in it if you're a completionist that wants to like 100% the game, and I don't know if I will or not. Like, I'm into it, but I don't know if I'm that into it, you know? Like, it
Right.
feels kind of like some of the things are like the achievements you've been working through on the Avengers you were telling me about.
Oh, God,
like,
yeah.
It gets a little grindy at some point, and it's or like to collect all the 200 some odd thousand spirits that are in the game, which you collect like 100 or so at a time whenever you collect it. It's not one at a time, thank God.
Right.
But you have to like deal with these certain combats that only happen kind of randomly at certain times. So if that's what all you have left, you're just kind of like twiddling your thumbs, like, all right, this combat will start eventually. I hope, maybe, we'll see, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, the game's still really fun. The story's interesting, and it does eventually kind of like really explain itself. Like, I kind of felt like I had been playing it for multiple hours and chapters, and I was like, I barely know what's going on in this story. Like, I have the very loose idea, but I don't really know what's going on. And then you have a moment of clarity with something that happens with the like main big bad guy, and you're like, oh damn, okay, I see. So it's finally getting there. I'm unlocking the story and figuring it out, which is fun. And
For sure.
I'm hoping to finish it soon. I've been only playing it for stream, and in April I had a lot of time away from stream just because I was busy with other stuff. So hopefully by this time next month, when we record the next episode, I can say, hey, I finally finished that freaking game, dude.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's really kind of about all I've been playing. I just haven't had much time for games, and when I did, I was just like, man, I really do not feel like actually doing anything, so I'm gonna watch TV or just scroll through TikTok for a little bit and then go to bed.
Yeah, super fair. No, I totally get it.
But yeah, I think that's it. That's all I've really had is those 3 games. Not a big list. Well, and Solasta, obviously, so 4 total.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, my inability to play The Ascent was not an inability to play video games, because, brother, I've been crunching down.
Okay.
So I've got a lot. I finished Tunic. And I will just go ahead and say now, I understand why we're not doing an episode on Tunic. I understand it, and I agree with the decision that we've made. I am upset that I do not have 2 hours to rave about this game. I love it. It is easily my favorite game I have played so far this year. It is easily the best game I have played on Game Pass this year. It is wonderful. It is magical. It captures the energy of classic NES games in a modern way. The collectibles are fun to get. The instruction booklet pages were such a joy and a blast to find. There's so many great secrets that you discover through it. I haven't done everything, but I did most everything. I did enough to get the bonus ending. So I've seen all the endings of the game, the good and the bad, and the dirty. There's not a dirty ending. I love it. It's so phenomenal. It is easily my favorite game I've played this year. If you have any love in your heart, in the slightest, for retro gaming, if you have any love in your heart for adorable animal characters, if you have any love in your heart for joy in your life, if you have space for joy in your life, you have space for Tunic. Please play it. Everyone needs to play it. All humans must play Tunic. It is incredible. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I was debating with myself back and forth whether I liked this or Death's Door more. By the time I got to the end, it's Tunic, baby. Without a doubt in my mind. I love this game, and I think every human being on planet Earth should play it. You mentioned my Avengers achievement journey.
Yes.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so for folks that aren't introduced to this, I was a big fan of Marvel's Avenger. I say was because I think with the purchase of the American-based Square Enix companies by that new company, the Marvel license ain't going with them. So I have a feeling we're approaching the end of Marvel's Avengers time on this mortal plane, which makes it all the more appropriate that I'm trying to get all the achievements in Marvel's Avengers. I have 2 left. I got one of them. I got 2 left. I have to do 50 of the Hive events, and I have to open 50 of a specific type of treasure chest that only appears on certain levels in certain ways. It is a grind. I hate myself for choosing to do this. I hate saying that I did it publicly, which means I'm accountable. I'm not having fun. And here's the thing. The treasure chest one, I have found a way to cheese it. I have found a way to abuse it. Because there is a level that you can go to, you fly to a thing, you talk to a guy, you fly to another thing, a shield vault opens up, and the treasure chest is there, and then you immediately go back to the Quinjet and reload the whole thing and do it again, right? And it counts, and it lets you open it again and again. So that one, I found a way to cheese it this week, so I'll probably be done with that one soon. Which means there will be one left, which is the Hives, which are so boring, because it's literally just 6 floors of beat up dudes. I'm so over it.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
I don't know why I did this to myself, Spence.
I don't either. Like,
I
if
really
you would have
don't
never
know.
publicly said anything, it wouldn't matter. But now you're like, you're kind of
I'm committed. I'm committed to the bit, man. This is the funny part about this is I did a stream about this. Because I thought, oh, hey, I've only got 3 left. I can get all 3 on stream. No. Because, here's the thing about the Hives. Hives are 6 floors of... Basically, they are the one-shot threat zone missions that you can get done in, like, a couple minutes. And there's just 6 of them layered on top of each other, basically. You have to do all 6 of those in a row. Each one probably takes about 15 minutes if you're playing on the lowest difficulty. And if you're mind-numbingly bored with the lowest difficulty and actually want to play on something that challenges you, it takes longer.
Of course.
If you want to be efficient, you have to play it on the mind-numbing dumb boy difficulty, which is what I've been doing, and I hate it. This has 100% become, like... Once I am done with this, I am uninstalling this game and never looking at it again. Like,
yeah, that's rough.
It has become that, which is a shame because I loved this game, loved it for a long time, was one of the big advocates for it when everybody else was absolutely dunking on it. But yeah, no. Chasing these achievements has made me hate this game. So I question why I'm still doing it. But here we are. Hopefully next month I'll be done. And if they put out new content for it, I might come back to it at some point. But this is definitely feeling like the series finale of Mark Plays Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely feeling that way. I I got a couple of games that I put a tiny bit of time into that I just wanted to shout real quick. I got Sonic Colors Ultimate on a deal at GameStop. So I was like, yeah, sure. I picked up the game for like the Ultimate Edition that comes with like a pin and whatever for like $15.
Okay,
so
not bad.
I got it on a deal. I haven't gotten too heavy into it yet because I've been playing other stuff. I maybe played through the first couple of levels. It's fine. A lot of people say Sonic Colors is the best modern Sonic game. This remake of it isn't really making me feel that. I've definitely enjoyed Sonic Generations and honestly Sonic Forces a lot more. But I'm only a couple levels deep, so I don't want to, say anything too drastic. I've been starting to replay the Mega Man Battle Network games.
Okay.
If you're unfamiliar with these games, they are isometric RPGs that are sort of based in a side franchise of Mega Man. Battle Network is like its own thing. It's completely unconnected from all the rest of the Mega Man games. It's off in its own world. It's off in its own planet. It's basically like what Capcom's developers thought the internet was going to become all the way back in 2001. And honestly, they fucking nailed it, and it's scary.
It's like one of those things everybody's always like, oh, The Simpsons predicted this. They predicted this time.
No, 100% Mega Man, aside from, and I mean, people even have digital avatars these days in a lot of ways. Like, they predicted the social internet, and it's scary.
Damn.
Like, the accuracy with which they predicted, oh, everybody just does banking through their PET devices. Like, everybody does banking through their cell phones now. What the fuck? Like, with scary accuracy in 2001, they predicted the future. By the way, also, the games are great. I loved these games when I was a kid, and because there's not a collection yet, these games are only legally available on the Wii U eShop.
Good God.
And the Wii U eShop is closing down next year, so
Yep.
I bought all of them. Just because I wanted to make sure that I had a copy of them, and I wanted to fucking show Capcom, hey, put out a collection of these damn things.
Yeah, like if you make a collection, we will buy it.
We will buy it, exactly. The community for this game is fiending for a collection, because like classic Mega Man got a collection, X got a collection, and the Zero and ZX games got a collection. The only thing we're missing is Legends, which probably won't happen because of music licensing, and Battle Network. Those are the only ones that don't have availability on all modern platforms. So, Capcom, please, I beg of you, please put out a Battle Network collection so that I can regret spending all this money on the Wii U eShop.
And then buy the other one again.
And then buy the collection again. Absolutely, I will. 100%. Zero doubt in my mind. I will buy the collection. And the last game I've been playing, and honestly, the game that has been occupying most of my time, I have been playing a stunning amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Which I did not expect. I was not prepared. I love trading card games. I don't really know that I've ever really talked about that on the show. We've been making for the show for a year.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about it too much either.
I love trading card games. I play a bunch of trading card games. I was sucked into Magic for a very long time. And I've been sort of playing the field on trading card games again for the past couple of months because I do feel comfortable enough to actually go to local events again. I've been sort of playing the field. I've been playing a lot of the Digimon trading card game, which is super fun. I've been playing that in person. And in my interest in playing the field, I had never really played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. Like, I remember playing with a starter deck when I was a little kid and maybe played it like twice and then moved on, right? Never really played the game before. Holy shit, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is buck wild.
Yeah.
Like, the game is crazy. There's so much stuff going on that can kill you on turn one, and yet a lot of ways to stop people from killing you on turn one. It's like a card game on steroids because nothing rotates. Nothing goes away. Stuff will occasionally get like banned and limited. But like in Magic, mostly you have these sort of set formats where, in standard stuff rotates out after 2 years. So you're not always playing with the same stuff all the time. Not Yu-Gi-Oh, dude. They're just like, hey, if something's broken, we'll ban it. But other than that, here's every card in existence. Figure it out.
Yeah. Good luck.
And it's been genuinely very fun figuring out that puzzle. And I've been playing a stunning amount of it. Did not expect to get sucked into it at all. And I have a lot of hours on Steam. I have some amount of hours on Xbox. I tried the Switch version. Don't try the Switch version, by the way, because the performance on the Switch version is just bad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so don't play it on Switch, but on PC and on Xbox, and I'm sure PS4 as well, or any of the PlayStation consoles. It's great, and it works, and it's free to play, and it's actually fairly generous as far as free to play games go.
Does your progress go across platforms?
Yes, it's all cross-platform. Yes.
I kind of figured you wouldn't have tried it in 3 different places, but it's also free, so it's not like you're out anything to try it on a new platform and be like, oh, this just runs way better here or is more enjoyable.
Yeah, you just have to log into your what you call it? It's Bandai, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Is it Bandai?
I'm pretty sure it is.
No, it's Konami. Konami's the one that owns it. So yeah, you just have to log into your Konami account. Bandai's the one that does the Dragon Ball card game and the Digimon card game. The Yu-Gi-Oh is Konami. Yeah.
How can I not remember that? It's giant on the back of all of the cards.
Right. Yeah, I just say I don't remember. I didn't remember for a very long time. But yeah, so I got sucked into that, and I've built 3 decks, and the only money I've spent was on a cosmetic thing because I wanted a very particular avatar for a very particular deck, and I thought it was funny, so I did it. I spent money on that. I have not spent money on any cards. I've built...
That's a win in my book already.
Yeah, I've built 3 solid decks. Like, these aren't like they're not like the toppest of top tier ultra meta competitive decks, right? But I can compete on the ladder, and I've spent 0 money on cards. So, like, play the solo modes. The solo modes get you a lot of free stuff. If you go through those. And the solo modes are also, if you've never played Yu-Gi-Oh!, a great tutorial. For how stuff works, because brother, this game is complicated.
Like on the surface it seems kind of simple, but it does get pretty deep from what I remember. I haven't played it in a long time, but I remember it was like, all right, this is pretty deep, and I'm sure that it is only 1,000 times deeper now. Yes, no, 100%. I mean, you're looking at like 2 decades worth of card stock, you know?
Yeah. So
yeah, like this came out when we were kids. Like, let's not forget that.
Yep.
And they've been making cards since we were kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And still going and still super popular to this day. The main card shop I go to these days, I don't play physical Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh is the main game there, and it still draws a great crowd of all ages. So like, game's still going really strong, and I had never really played it before. Game's fun. I don't know that I'll transition to playing it in real life. I don't know that I will. I kind of get what I want to get out of Master Duel.
Mm-hmm.
But game's fun. I would highly recommend it. If anybody played Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, just check it out just to see the shit that's changed, because there's a lot. There's a lot, and it's free, you know. So
yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's free, so like you're not out anything.
Right. So just go check it out. I think it's well worth checking out. That's about it for me, man. And that's about it for the show. I want to thank you guys for dealing with us switching games sort of midstream. I do appreciate. Hopefully you guys are cool with all that. Hopefully it's something we won't have to do again. But this month it was a very big necessity. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your trust in us. Let's talk about next month. Spencer, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little scared.
Okay.
Because
what are we afraid of? Tell me. Tell me your fears.
Well, if you've been paying attention to the Spark Pass Daily News on Instagram and TikTok, I kind of had an episode a couple of weeks ago where I was possessed by the demon of Bugsnax. And I don't mean to laugh. It's incredibly serious. And I went to an outpatient Bugsnax rehabilitation facility, and they told me, hey, you idiot, you haven't even actually played the game yet. So you can probably face your fear by just playing the game. Which seems obvious, but, you know, I didn't think about it. So next month on Spark Pass, because I have to face this, I have to stare it dead in its eyes, we're going to play Bugsnax.
I feel like I'm getting dragged into this to help you face your fears, and you know what? I feel like that is what I should do as a good friend. I should be there for support.
I appreciate it, dude, but like I feel like considering the goofy ass content we made for the last week, I feel like we owe it to him.
Yeah, kind of. I'm on board with that.
I kind of feel like we owe them something other than just me making vague creepypasta horror content on TikTok. I do kind of feel like I owe it to him. So Young Horse is the developer. If you've seen any of that, I'm sorry. But yeah, we're gonna play Bug Snacks. It's an adorable game about adorable bugs that you feed to your friends. And that's what we're playing next month. So join us then. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next month. Take care.
Bye.